What do you do when your entire family decides you're no longer worth keeping around? The moment you stop paying their bills. Hi, I'm Amelia, 30 years old, born and raised in Boston, and until one unforgettable Christmas, I was the designated financial savior of my family. For 7 years, I covered everything: car repairs, tuition mortgages, even a designer wedding. I kept thinking, they need me. I'm the only one who can keep this family afloat. But what I didn't know was how they really saw me. That morning, my sister Stephanie looked me dead in the eye, smiled sweetly, and said, "We had a family vote. You're no longer our sister." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just smiled and slid a red folder beneath the Christmas tree. That folder held every receipt, every lie, every manipulation they ever pulled, and they had no idea what was about to hit them. But let's rewind, because this betrayal didn't start on Christmas. It started years earlier, when love turned into obligation and support into exploitation. Growing up the smart one. I grew up in a modest 2-story house in a working-class neighborhood outside Boston. Our backyard was tiny but full of memories: barbecues, slip and slides, snowball fights in the winter. My dad was an engineer. My mom taught 2nd grade. I was the oldest of 3, then came Stephanie, 3 years younger, always the charming one. And then Drew, the baby. Athletic, reckless, and always someone else's problem to fix. Everything changed when I turned 16. Dad fell in love with his secretary, left us for California. Just like that, no warning, no counseling, no chance to understand. Mom told me, "You're the oldest now. We have to stick together. Family is all we have." That sentence would follow me like a chain around my ankle for years. She changed after the divorce, less warm, more sharp-edged. A woman who traded affection for expectations. Within 2 years, she'd married Jack, a man with no real opinions, just a nod and a checkbook. Stephanie fell apart emotionally, so Mom coddled her. Drew spiraled into laziness. And me, I excelled. Obsessed over grades, joined every academic club, landed a full scholarship to BU for business. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, Mom hugged me and whispered, "You've always been the smart one." But the way she said it wasn't pride, it was calculation. The first Ask College was brutal dorms the size of closets, ramen noodles, juggling classes, and 2 jobs. Meanwhile, Stephanie chose a pricey liberal arts college, and Drew dropped out of high school twice before barely scraping by with a GED. I landed an internship my junior year that turned into a full-time job straight out of college. $75,000 a year. I felt like I'd made it. Then, the first ask. 3 weeks into my job, Mom called voice tight. "Stephanie's car broke down. It's $2,800 to fix. We just don't have it." I transferred the money that night. Stephanie texted a heart emoji and disappeared for a month. 2 months later, Drew needed $1,500 for a coding boot camp. Then came overdue property taxes. Then Jack's dental work. Then Mom's maxed out credit cards. Every request came with a promise. "We'll pay you back, sweetheart." But not $1 ever returned. And somehow I became the one who was always grateful to help. Because that's what family does, right? A life on hold. By 24, I'd saved $22,000 for a down payment on a tiny condo. Then Mom called sobbing, "We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. Amelia, they're going to take the house." I wired the money. That weekend, I visited and saw a brand new entertainment system in the living room. Clearance deal. Mom shrugged. We deserved something nice after all that stress. Stephanie planning a spring break trip to Cancun. Drew talking about launching a craft beer subscription startup. And me, I skipped vacations, wore the same work shoes for 2 years, and lived in a 1-bedroom walk-up while funding 3 adult lives. The pattern. By 26, I was promoted senior analyst, $98,000. But somehow I was still broke. The requests came faster, bigger. $15,000 for Mom's credit card debt, $20,000 for Drew's business, $35,000 for Stephanie's luxury wedding. I was the invisible ATM in the family group chat. But the real breaking point hadn't come yet. Not until one Sunday, 3 months before Christmas. Cliffhanger ending. I arrived early for dinner that day, like always balancing a bottle of wine and a pie. I heard them before I saw them, voices floating from the patio laughter. And then I heard my name. "Amelia's bonus hits next month," Mom said casually. "We could finally put that deposit down on the lake house in Vermont." God, Stephanie giggled. "She's such an easy mark. Just say emergency, and she writes the check. She lives alone, wears the same boring clothes." "She's lonely," Mom added coldly. "We're all she has." I froze. That was the moment everything shattered, and I started building the red folder. But trust me, the real confrontation that was still to come. I didn't say a word that night. I backed away from the patio wine bottle, still in hand, and slipped out the front door like a stranger in my own life. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking. Not from sadness, though it did hurt. Not even from anger, though. Betrayal simmered hot beneath my ribs. No, what I felt most was something colder, clearer. I'd just heard in their own voices what I'd suspected for years. I wasn't family to them. I was a strategy. The smart one with the paycheck, the fixer, the fallback plan, the gift that keeps on giving. And that night, I made a choice. No more tears, no more checks. I would build a case not for court yet, but for myself. I needed to see it on paper. That's when I started the red folder, the ledger of lies. It was just a plain cardboard file at first, crimson red, bright against the beige of my home office desk. Inside, I began printing records, Venmo receipts, bank transfers, text screenshots, emails where they begged or guilted me into another loan. Each page was like a dagger. $800 for Stephanie's car repair. $15,000 for Mom's credit cards. $22,000 to save the house, followed by a $3,200 entertainment system receipt. $20,000 for Drew's startup, which didn't even have a domain name. $35,000 for a wedding I wasn't even mentioned in during the speech. Every time I turned down a vacation, skipped a professional course, or wore shoes until the soles wore thin, I'd tape a sticky note beside it. This was your Paris trip. This was the master's program you postponed. This was the weekend you cried alone while they toasted in Maine. I wasn't just documenting what they'd taken, I was tracing the cost of everything I'd lost. Silence speaks louder. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I did something scarier. I stopped answering their money calls. When Drew texted asking for $800 just to float rent until his freelance gig paid out, I replied, "Sorry, I can't help right now." When Mom called about Christmas expenses piling up, I said, "You'll need to manage it with what you have this year." The silence that followed those words was deafening. No follow-up, no check-ins. No "how are you?" No "we miss you." Only silence. It confirmed everything I feared. Their love had always been conditional, hooked directly to my wallet. Discovery, I wanted closure. So I hired a private investigator. It felt extreme. Until the first report came back. Mom had a gambling problem. Thousands spent at Mohegan Sun Casino right after she claimed she couldn't pay the electric bill. Drew never filed a business license, but he had purchased a nearly new BMW kept hidden at a friend's garage. Stephanie's medical emergency, not for anything urgent. Cosmetic surgery, and she and Greg. They bought a vacation home in Maine 3 days after I covered their mortgage emergency. I nearly threw up reading that report. But I also felt something else power. Every receipt, every lie was now on record. They'd rewritten the definition of family, and I was about to write a new ending. Therapy and law. The next call I made was to a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Dr. Meredith Simmons didn't blink when I told her about the red folder. "What you're describing is financial abuse," she said softly. "It's disguised as obligation, but it's exploitation." Then I met with Barbara Watkins, an attorney who handled financial recovery cases. "You functioned as an unauthorized bank for nearly a decade," Barbara said. "These weren't gifts. These were coerced loans. In some cases, even fraud. Could I recover it? Legally, some of it. But emotionally, that was the real battle." Barbara leaned across the table and said, "You don't just need repayment. You need closure, boundaries, power." And that's when we began drafting the plan. The Christmas setup I chose. Christmas Day not out of pettiness, but because it was the only time I knew they'd all be in one place. I bought every gift with care, my final offering. Drew would get a personalized leather portfolio because he always said he was entrepreneurial. Stephanie would get earrings to match her wedding jewelry because image mattered to her more than truth. Mom and Jack, a weekend getaway to a resort they once drooled over in a brochure, probably while I paid their property taxes. Alongside each gift, I prepared letters, real ones, not accusations, not anger, just truth, boundaries, observations, conditions for repair, and the red folder that would go beneath the tree wrapped like any other present. Because this year, the truth was the gift. Cliffhanger ending. As I sealed the envelope on the last letter, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Same sweater I'd worn last year, same apartment, same quiet dignity. But this time, I wasn't the same person. This time, I was the one in control. And they had no idea what was coming. Christmas morning arrived sharp and cold. The city glowed under a fresh blanket of snow, clean and deceptive, just like the smiles I'd see that day. I wore a crimson sweater, charcoal trousers, and my oldest boots. Professional, festive, and comfortable enough to walk away if things went south. One bag held carefully wrapped gifts. Another held the red folder now full to bursting with every receipt, every photo, every text I had gathered over the last 2 months. My final bag carried a ham, 2 bottles of wine, and the last traces of illusion I had about my family. I arrived at 10:00 a.m., sharp. Mom opened the door with a well-practiced smile and a cloud of expensive perfume. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. The house sparkled with over-decorated trees, gleaming garlands, poinsettias on every surface. All of it bought with my money, meant for overdue bills, not holiday spreads, worthy of a catalog. The calm before the explosion. Jack nodded from his recliner, Bloody Mary already in hand. Stephanie emerged from the kitchen, eyes calculating, lips stretched thin. "Love the sweater," she said. "Is it new?" "Had it for years." The tension flickered in her face. Drew tried to act casual, offering to carry the ham. His sudden politeness told me everything he knew. Something was different. At breakfast, we made polite conversation. Nobody asked about my work. No one mentioned the silence from the past few weeks. When Mom beamed about her cinnamon rolls, I smiled and nodded. She didn't know I'd seen the receipt for Madagascar vanilla the same week she claimed she couldn't afford groceries. Then came gift time. Mom orchestrated it like always. "Stephanie, why don't you give Amelia your gift?" Stephanie handed me a poorly wrapped mug. It read, "World's Okayest Sister." Not even a new mug, there was a coffee ring inside. Drew gave me a $25 gift card. Mom regifted a scarf I'd seen her wear last spring. I said thank you to each of them. Then it was my turn. Stephanie got sapphire earrings. Drew got a leather portfolio embossed with his name. Mom and Jack got a luxury resort weekend. They looked stunned, guilty, maybe even afraid. That's when I knew they felt the shift too. The vote, before I could sit, Mom cleared her throat. "Actually, sweetheart, there's something we need to talk about." Stephanie took over voice cool and rehearsed. "We've been discussing our family dynamic, what's healthy and what's not." I didn't blink. "And we had a vote," she said, glancing at the others. "We've decided you're no longer part of this family." The air went still. Even Jack stopped sipping his drink. Stephanie smiled with saccharine pity. Mom dabbed at invisible tears. Drew stared at the floor. "You're controlling, Amelia," Mom added, "always holding money over our heads." I took a breath, steady and calm. "So this is it. You're cutting me out." "It's not personal," Stephanie said. "It's about healing." I reached down and unzipped my leather bag. No anger, no accusations, just truth. The reveal. "Then allow me to offer you a parting gift." I placed the red folder beneath the Christmas tree, nestled beside glittery wrapping paper and garish bows. "Open it." Nobody moved. "What is this?" Mom asked, her voice thin. 7 years of receipts," I replied. Drew went pale. Stephanie's smile cracked. Jack sat forward, finally alert. I pulled out the first document. Total transfers $253 to $842. Loans, bailouts, unpaid debts, every penny. I handed Drew a highlighted bank statement. March 15th. $20,000 for a beer startup that never existed. And the BMW you bought the week after still hidden at Jason's place. He stammered, said nothing. Next came photos. Stephanie, your $15,000 in medical emergencies were cosmetic surgeries. And this, I held up a vacation home deed. Main property. Bought 3 days after your fake mortgage crisis. She lunged for the folder. You had us investigated, no. I had myself liberated. I turned to Mom. The gambling thousands at Mohegan Sun, while you begged for help with taxes. Jack looked at her stunned. Karen, gambling. She choked on a gasp. Legal notice. I placed a letter on the coffee table. Prepared by Barbara Watkins, family recovery attorney. Includes repayment plans, legal summaries, and if necessary, grounds for criminal charges. Stephanie exploded. You manipulative, self-righteous. What exactly have you done for me, Stephanie? I asked quietly. Tell me. What did I get in return for funding your dreams? Silence. I pulled out one last thing, a recorder. I pressed play. The September patio conversation echoed in the living room. She's such an easy mark. No social life. She whips out her checkbook, the gift that keeps on giving. Mom's mascara smeared. Drew looked like he might faint. Stephanie froze. That's not how we meant it, Drew muttered. You meant every word. I stood tall, steady. But now, I mean every word of this. Cliffhanger ending. You have 2 options, I said, placing final documents on the coffee table. Option 1, sign repayment terms, attend therapy, rebuild with honesty. Option 2, I file lawsuits and pursue criminal fraud. Stephanie was speechless. Mom just whispered, after all we've done for you. I picked up my bag. You've done nothing for me. Just to me. As I walked toward the door, I turned once more. The gifts under the tree paid for. No strings. That's what real generosity looks like. And then I left into the snow. The door closed behind me with a click, but the chapter had just opened. I didn't make it to my car before I heard the door fly open behind me. You can't just drop a bomb like that and walk away. Stephanie's voice sliced through the quiet morning air, her heels crunching in the snow as she stormed out, still wearing her silk pajama pants and rage. I turned slowly, steadying my breath against the frost. Snowflakes danced around us like confetti from a war that hadn't finished. I didn't drop a bomb, Stephanie, I said. I presented evidence. She scoffed, arms crossed, eyes wild. Behind her came Drew, then Mom, and finally Jack, still holding his half-empty Bloody Mary. There we stood on the porch where we'd once posed for Easter photos and trick-or-treat group shots. Only now it wasn't a family, it was a standoff. Drew the peacemaker. Drew stepped forward first, trying to play mediator. Look, he said, lifting his hands. This all just got blown out of proportion. You mean the part where you bought a BMW with my loan and never paid me back? His lips parted shut again. I was going to, eventually. That's the difference between us, Drew, I said quietly. You see money as eventual. I see it as earned. He flinched, the truth stinging more than the wind. Mom's guilt. Play Mom's voice cracked behind him. So this is about money then. After everything I sacrificed for you, I turned. No, Mom. It's about respect, about the truth, about not being manipulated into paying for a lifestyle you lied to me about. You tracked everything like a bookkeeper, she spat. Who does that to their own family? Someone who's been lied to one too many times. I paused, locking eyes. You were never asking for help. You were leveraging love. Her eyes filled with tears. But I'd seen that performance too many times to be moved by it. Stephanie breaks. Stephanie finally snapped. You act like you're better than us. Just because you're successful, you think that makes you the hero. No, I replied. What makes me the hero is that I gave until it broke me, and I still walked away without burning the house down. She laughed bitterly. You're pathetic. No partner, no kids, no family. All you have is a spreadsheet and a condo. That hurt. I won't lie. But it didn't break me. I have something better, I said slowly. Boundaries. Jack speaks. Jack cleared his throat eyes on the ground. I didn't know about the gambling, he said. Karen always said it was emergencies. I never questioned it. And that's the problem, Jack, I said gently. You didn't question anything. You let it happen. He looked down, ashamed. And I felt something soften, not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. He'd been a bystander too long to be completely innocent, but maybe he wasn't the architect of the damage. The final envelopes. I reached into my bag and pulled out 5 sealed letters. These outlined the repayment plans, therapy requirements, and terms for rebuilding. I handed one to each of them. This isn't a threat, it's a choice. Follow through and maybe we salvage something real. Ignore it and we're done. Drew looked at his envelope like it might bite him. Mom's hands trembled. Stephanie stared at hers like it was a death notice. You've got until New Year's Day. The turning point. And if we can't afford all of it, Drew asked, voice quieter than before. The schedule adjusts to your income. It's fair. There's also the option of community service therapy hours and documented restitution. Restitution, Stephanie sneered. You were fine living off me. Now you get to live with your decisions. Jack stepped closer. Amelia, if we do this, really do it, will you be in our lives again? I met his eyes. That depends on your actions, not your apologies. Cliffhanger ending. I turned to go one last time. They stood there on the porch together for once, but not unified, each holding an envelope like it contained a future they weren't sure they wanted. 3 months. No contact, reflect, repair, or we go legal. Stephanie called out after me. You're walking away from your family. I paused in the snow, then turned. No. I'm walking toward the person I should have been years ago, and this time I didn't look back. In the weeks after Christmas, the silence from my family was deafening. No calls, no texts, no vague group chats about New Year's plans or just checking in. Just nothing. It should have hurt more than it did. But the truth is, I finally felt peace. For the first time in 7 years, I wasn't waiting for the next emergency. I wasn't flinching when my phone rang. I wasn't budgeting around someone else's crisis. I was just living. Choosing myself, I started therapy with Dr. Simmons every other week. We talked about everything, the guilt, the conditioning, the belief that love had to be earned through sacrifice. I told her things I hadn't even admitted to myself, that I didn't know who I was outside of being useful, that I had confused boundaries with abandonment, and that I'd never actually believed I deserved to say no. She nodded and said something I'll never forget. Amelia saying no to abuse is not rejection. It's self-respect. I wrote that down, taped it to my bathroom mirror, read it every morning like scripture. Legal progress. Barbara. My lawyer moved quickly. She sent official repayment letters to each family member with clear instructions and generous terms. Surprisingly, Stephanie was the first to respond through her lawyer. She called the terms dramatic, but agreed to make monthly payments through her joint account with Greg. Her tone was bitter, her letter cold, but the money came in. Drew didn't respond until week 4. Then came a stammering voicemail. Hey, Ames. I got the letter. I'm trying to figure things out. I just wanted you to know, I'm thinking about everything you said. It wasn't much, but it was something. And then came the biggest shock. A knock at the door late January, snow still lining the Cambridge sidewalks. I was watering my tiny container garden basil and mint nothing fancy when someone knocked. I opened the door to find Mom. No makeup, hair tucked under a knit hat. She looked smaller than I remembered. She handed me an envelope and didn't ask to come in. I'm going to the meeting, she said, voice low. Gamblers Anonymous, weekly. I have a sponsor. I'm sorry it took this to make me see it. I didn't speak, just nodded. The envelope has the first repayment she added, and the number of my counselor if you ever want to talk through her. For a moment, I saw something real in her eyes. Not manipulation, not pride, just a woman unraveling her own denial. And for the first time, I believed her. A new life emerges. Without the weight of financial exploitation, my life bloomed. I bought my first condo, a sunlit 2-bedroom on the edge of Cambridge. Not fancy, but mine. Paid for by me, maintained by me. No IOUs, no ghosts in the walls. I joined a hiking group, a book club. Started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit for women recovering from domestic or economic abuse. One night after a fundraiser, I met Michael. Architect, smart, steady. He asked real questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't care about my salary or my scars. He just wanted to know me. And for the first time, I let someone in. Without feeling like I owed them anything. Letters from the past. By March, 3 envelopes had arrived. Stephanie's payments came with no notes. Drew's second envelope had a short letter I sold the car. Working part-time at an IT firm now, still figuring stuff out. Thank you for making me face it, even if I hated you for it at first. And Mom's third envelope came with a letter in trembling cursive. I lied to you, Amelia. For years. And the worst part is, I justified it as love. I don't know if we can ever fix it, but I'm going to try, even if it's just for myself. The inner shift. Dr. Simmons said something in one of our sessions. You broke a generational pattern, Amelia. That comes with grief, but also power. And it was true. I didn't just confront my family. I confronted a legacy of silence of survival through submission. And I had survived something most people never name financial abuse in a family that swore it was love. I was no longer the girl who needed their approval. I was a woman who had redefined her worth on her own terms. Cliffhanger ending. As spring approached, I agreed to a meeting. A dinner-neutral territory, public place, no money talk, no therapy lectures, just a test. A test to see if any of them had really changed, because the red folder may have ended one chapter, but the next one would require something harder trust, and I wasn't giving that freely anymore. We met on a Thursday evening, a downtown bistro on Boylston Street, public neutral familiar. I chose it for one reason: no one could raise their voice here without drawing attention. I arrived 5 minutes early, habit control nerves. I ordered water, set my phone to silent, told myself, you don't owe them anything but honesty. One by one they arrived. Jack, the quiet acknowledgement. Jack was first. He looked tired, older, sober. He didn't try small talk, just gave a small nod. Thanks for the chance to sit down, he said. It wasn't much, but after years of silence and passivity, that one sentence felt like a shift. Drew, a flicker of change. Drew came next in khakis and a tucked-in shirt I didn't recognize. He looked employed, focused, present. He slid into the chair and pulled out a worn leather portfolio, the one I gave him. Still using it, I asked, half smiling. He nodded. I show it to clients. Makes me feel like I have my seshti together. For the first time in years, I didn't see a kid trying to avoid responsibility. I saw a man trying to earn something real. Stephanie resistant, but there. Stephanie arrived last. Hair done. Heels perfect. Lipstick bold. She sat across from me with a practiced expression. No apology, no greeting. Just presence. But that was more than I expected. The dinner we ordered quietly. I watched them avoid eye contact with each other. I watched their shoulders rise with every clink of silverware, and then I broke the silence. Thank you for showing up. No one responded, but they all nodded. I'm not here for a redo. I'm here to set the tone. Whatever future we build has to be different. Jack cleared his throat. We read your letters. We've been following the repayment plans. Even therapy. He glanced at Stephanie. She rolled her eyes but said nothing. Words that finally meant something. Drew leaned forward. I hated you for the folder at first. He was honest. But looking back, I needed it. No one ever called me out like that. I was taking and pretending it was love. I nodded. My throat tightened. Then Mom's voice came through the restaurant entrance. She hadn't texted. She hadn't said she'd come. But there she was, hair pulled back, no makeup, a manila envelope in hand. She approached the table slowly. "Is this seat taken?" she asked. Stephanie looked stunned. Drew's jaw clenched. I gestured to the empty chair beside Jack. Mom sat down and placed the envelope on the table. Bank statements. From my gambling days, printed out. I'm working with a financial counselor, and I wanted you to see the whole truth. The table went quiet, not angry, not cold, just quiet. I looked at her. Why now her eyes were glassy? Because I miss you more than I miss denial. Closure isn't a moment. The rest of dinner was awkward, clumsy, like strangers learning to speak a shared language again. But it happened. Stephanie didn't explode. She even complimented the restaurant. Drew made a dumb joke that made us all laugh. Jack picked up the tab, his own card. No, I forgot my wallet routine. And Mom didn't ask for anything. The new chapter. It's been 6 months since that dinner. Repayment plans are on track. Therapy continues group and individual. I've redefined holidays. No longer mandatory reunions, but invitations I extend when I choose. Some weekends I visit Mom after her GA meetings. Drew invited me to his first work anniversary party. Stephanie's still guarded, but she showed up to my nonprofit's gala and donated. Silently. But still. The folder's final page. The red folder now lives in my closet not as a weapon but a reminder of boundaries, of courage, of what it means to rewrite your story no matter how late in the book you are. I added one last page, a photo of me smiling, wine glass in hand, surrounded by friends at my birthday dinner. No manipulation, no guilt, no IOUs, just joy. To you watching. If you're listening to this thinking, that's my family. That's my story. I want you to know something. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's survival. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for demanding respect. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions or ledgers. You deserve to be free. Drop your story in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away to reclaim your worth? Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear you are not just what you give. You're allowed to choose yourself. Thank you for listening to mine.